Why are people who become billionaires, who come from wealth already, referred to as self-made men? If a rich person uses inherited wealth, or donations from family Trump, Bezos, etc., that they then use to become billionaires, are they really self-made? How likely is it for someone to become self-made if they do not have access to wealth or high amounts of capital already? Just for the sake of establishing what is the definition of the idea of self-made, does one has to start poor orphan to be considered self-made? Even those of us who migrated from poor countries with little money, even we had help from our families. I think the person who comes to mind with self-made is Sarah Blakely, the owner of Spanx. Started it in her basement with $100 or so, cut the prototype out of leotards, and the business was born. With a cool billion now. Not many stories like that though. There's generally startup money from somewhere involved. Bezos took a couple $100,000 from his parents and turned it into $100 billion. That's super impressive. There are millions of people out there whose parents have a few $100,000. There are 2 people in the world with more money than Bezos right now. If your parents made $100,000 and you did whatever to make $1 million, wouldn't that be an accomplishment? To play devil's advocate to most of the comments here, I agree that the self-made term for these people is sort of phony, but at the same time they still had to have a vision and work their asses off creating the companies you see today. Like it's not just them getting money from their family and then poof, Amazon appears. Because they grew that wealth vastly during their reign. Bezos may have started out as upper class, but now he's like run the world level rich. I'm no fan of billionaires or even necessarily the self-made label. But there's a lot of people whose families can give them the level of help Bezos got and have absolutely zero chance of becoming a centi-billionaire or even a millionaire tbh. I think they gave him $200K. He's a nasty guy but clearly smart and hard-working. There's some validity to giving the self-made label to anyone who manages to increase the wealth they're given by 2 orders of magnitude. That takes skill and grit and some luck. Yes. It's still hard to convert 40 million into billion. The staggering majority of people would not accomplish much of anything if they had a large sum of money dropped into their lap. See lotto winners and even people who go from poverty to highly paid careers. The common notion that success in business or life is due only to having startup capital is impressively stupid. If someone inherits even $10 million and managed to become a billionaire, that means they multiplied that inheritance by 100 times. Same math as someone turning $10,000 into $1 million. Who do you know that could do that? Because self-made only exists to make rich people feel good about themselves. There is no point in the term besides self-flattery. Because they don't control just the wealth, but also the narrative. Also, when your parents are loaded, you can take big risks where success means wealth. But failure doesn't mean financial ruin. Self-made never really applies to anyone rich or poor. At the end of the day you get a hand from family or a mentor. But with rich people, I tend to draw the line between straight nepotism and having to prove yourself. Letting a child inherit a business or take a job via connections without applying is a cheat code. But self-made applies more to people who learn a skill set and apply themselves instead of thinking their connections and money will cost them through. Converting 1 meter into 2 meters is not so hard, especially over time. Converting 1 meter into 100,000 meters is extremely hard. Well, like Bezos only got like $100K from his parents or something, in the mind you is a ton of money. But he is worth a couple billion. Still took hard work, etc. If you have increased the size of your wealth, I would say you are self-made. Going from $1 million to $1 billion is still hard. Regardless what people say about it, anyone who claims that they can consistently turn $1 million into $1 billion would be a world-class investment. Bezos started Amazon in his garage with his wife. He offered his parents equity in the company and they invested $250,000 with him. His parents are now billionaires from that investment. Before he started Amazon, Bezos was a financial analyst at a big Wall Street investment bank. He was already doing well, making big money on Wall Street. He quit the job and drove out to Seattle with his wife and built Amazon from scratch. Yes, Bezos is completely self-made. Made his parents billionaires too. Trump is not self-made. His father funneled $400 million to him. He's made up only getting a $1 million loan. If you can do it without the help of family and only the money you earn, while living in a property you rent, the kicker for these self-made people, they could take the risk with somewhere comfortable to fall back on. Just think how much you could invest in yourself or your business if you had the confidence to either fall back on family or on a good welfare system if you failed. Most people do not have that luxury. It is either work or be homeless, leaving no time or funds left to kick something off on the side, while maintaining a healthy life. Edit and you make it without profiting off the work of others. The real answer is because everything is relative. To someone born into wealth like a Trump, a small loan really is $1 million. So for someone in that mindset, they are self-made. Even in this very thread you have some people arguing no one is self-made unless you were born in a jungle raised by wolves. Lol. Obviously to most people self-made is someone who made their money coming from poverty or generally humble beginnings and not from a family who was already wealthy. There is no such thing as a self-made billionaire. No human has ever done $1 billion worth of work. They're not. It's all a lie to make poor people think they have a chance to become rich and keep them in the temporarily inconvenienced billionaire mindset. Because it is a useful fiction for both themselves to imagine that they did all of that work, and the people who would love to become a self-made man. The term is irrelevant anyways. I'm a millionaire. Some people would say I'm self-made. Others would say I'm not. It doesn't matter either way. Because it sounds better, especially to those who are not anything made. All Bezos did was have parents who could spare $300K. Come up with a brilliant idea at exactly the right time. Work his ass off. Engage in a few unscrupulous business practices. Are there any other? Rinse and repeat. So luck and pluck. It's just a narrative to make themselves look better. Also, the common folk like the idea that most rich people are self-made, even though that's a lie. Turning thousands into billions. When you're a billionaire, you can call yourself anything you want. Being born on third base and getting walked to home is really tough for some reason. I simply adore that kind of self-made stories. The best I know thus far is the Cypriot guy who founded EasyJet. In an interview some years ago, there was a question about this: do you consider yourself self-made? And he answers that he does consider himself self-made because the only help he had was when his father gave him £300 million to start the company. I always find it hilarious. Lol. The idea of the self-made man is a myth. Nobody is doing anything all on their own, especially when it comes to running businesses and acquiring wealth. It's a thing people say about themselves, but a lot of people have more recently said is bullshit. E.g., Arnold Schwarzenegger is the most recent one I heard. He said it's nonsense, he's self-made, and everyone from his parents to coaches and agents to really anyone who ever helped him out, they are all contributors to his success. They're calling themselves self-made men because they're egotistical.